How is everyone doing tonight? Guess what I read? I read a couple pages of the sample. It's worth it. I read just a few pages of this sample. Man is not alone. Abraham Joshua HESCHEL, of course. Just wanted to say a few things. I'm so sleepy, but I just wanted to mention my neighbor and I were talking about HR 22, House Resolution number 22. It hasn't been passed yet, but if it does, it's going to make it very hard for women, married women to vote, and trans women to vote. They will have to prove U.S. citizenship, and it's going to make it difficult because their driver's license and most of the regular ID will not prove citizenship. The passport does. Excuse me. The passport does, but most passports. Oh, welcome in. Welcome in. Thank you, Dr. Soda. Jesus loves you. He died, yes, on the cross for our sins and was resurrected 3 later. Believe in Jesus and you will not die but have everlasting life. Whoa, I didn't want to keep you up all night because I've been up for so many hours. But if you knew what Jesus did, in my life. Hi, Bilal Hargrove, William Mustafa, Bilal Hargrove. What a beautiful name. Salamu alaikum. Plant-based black man. What's up, little mama? All right. Oh, not too much. It's been a very long 2 days, but I'm ready for Wednesday hump day. I'm really looking forward to it. William Mustafa Bilal Grove, he says, game over. Oh, that is bomb. Thanks for putting all that color on it. Oh my goodness, that is bomb. Thank you, Mustafa. And plant-based black man says, no, he didn't. Oh, keep your mind open, dear. Keep your mind open. You're going to be surprised when you get old like me and you start to see these miracles. I really should have been dead so long ago, but I just celebrated my 25th birthday. I'm 75, but I was at death's door so many times. And one time, in the future, I'll tell you about it. So keep your mind open about everything. Yeah, keep your mind open before you're, well, none of us are guaranteed to live a long life, but I'm just so happy and grateful. Yeah, I think I need to celebrate for 75 days. And if I live another 75 days, I need to celebrate for 75 weeks and then 75 months, years. You wait, you're in for a surprise. You just wait. You're in for such a big surprise. Enjoy your life, every minute of it. And like I said, keep an open mind because that's the key to longevity. Be willing to look to the left or right. And I was just reading in this book, Man is Not Alone. There's so many nuances in life, and you're going to love Heschel's books. HESCHEL. Abraham Joshua Heschel. You're going to love his books. You really will. But yeah, I have to tell you, I wasn't I wasn't planning to stay very long because like I said, it's been a long 2 days, and when I get this sleepy, my mind just goes in a loop and I start repeating myself like a broken record. But I just wanted to jump on and say my neighbor and I were talking about Congress, the House Resolution Bill 22. And if they think they're going to stop women from voting, whoa, 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 whoa. Mm-mm-mm. Somebody's in for a big shock. Good morning, Gray Wolf. You have a blessed day too. Oh, yes, thank you. I hope it will be blessed. We never know. We never know. I don't take anything for granted at my age. I don't take anything for granted. I just absolutely, moment by moment, live by faith and humility and gratitude, and it makes room for more. It does. It works out beautifully. You're so sweet. Thank you, dear. Thank you. Yes, I think it's your energy from the other side of the camera that nourishes my spirit, my heart, and my mind. Because I have still have two sisters that I grew up with, and they can tell you they love me. I'm their big sister, and they love me and they spoil me, but they can tell you my shortcomings. So I'm not going to get it twisted. When I think about this bill, HR 22, I think about what Beyonce says. And one of my younger sisters always says, "You must not know about me." If they think they're going to try to stop women from voting because they're married and they had a name change because their name is changed, does that mean that they're trying to, what do you call, commit voter fraud because they married and took their husband's name. Huh. You know, the same way with Brother Mustafa. Would they try to say he can't vote because he has both a what you call a Christianized name and a can't really say it's a Arabic name. I guess you could, but it's not just Arabs that have that name. But anyways, would that be right for us to tell him, oh, you have an American name and an Arabic name. You better bring us documents and prove that you're not trying to commit voter fraud. You're trying to vote for three different people. Does that make any sense? I'm sure Brother Mustafa would say, you must not know about me. They don't know my grandma. They don't know half grandma. My grandma, even though she was barely 100 pounds, in the last live you can hear about her. She did not play. Blow, blow, blow. And then she'd call the prosecutor, my uncle. She'd call him to get her out of jail. Now think about that. The prosecutor is supposed to put her in jail after she blow, blow, bow, bow, bow. But no, she didn't play that little woman. She didn't play. I'm learning more about my family history so I understand more. I mean, she wouldn't, I guess it was too hurtful for her to talk about what she experienced. Now that she's gone, I continue to research and I'm learning more. She wouldn't even tell my mother too much about my mother's background. So here I am, just learning that part of family history. But it's better late than never. It's better late than never, honestly. It's a fascinating thing. Please don't leave this earth without searching for all your family history, and don't give up. Just don't give up. There's once you've hit a brick wall, you can't quit, because just like you can hit a brick wall and then it may be 20, 30, 40, 50 years and you can't really move forward, you'll find one name, you'll find one website or a hint, and it will open the floodgates. You'll find all this history. It's just, it's worth whatever sacrifice you have to make. It's worth it. It is. Many of the things that may grieve you for decades, why this, why. Many of that, it just fall away. All this healing will come inside. Find your roots. Find everything you can about your roots, because each time you do, so much pain, misery, all that it has to flee. You're just healing so fast. You're developing into a new mindset. You develop into a new person. Oh. Never stop. Never stop. You know, it's not always pleasant. It's not always comfortable. I mean, some of it is going to be painful. You know, for some of us, it's going to be painful to see. You know, like I said in the last line, my great, 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 third great grandfather on one side, said on my father's side, he was a enslaver. He also fathered his daughter-in-law. He married his son, one of his sons, to this African woman. He was Scottish, and his son was Scottish by a Scottish woman. But he also fathered an African woman, and those two are my great, great, they are my great, great grandparents. Of course, I never got to meet them, but I met their granddaughter, their daughter, my great grandmother. And me and the neighbor was talking about that today, talking about racism, colorism. I told her, she was telling me how she's trying to raise her son, blonde, blue-eyed son. She's trying to raise him to be completely different from the way so many other people were raised. She makes sure that he has an international uh, upbringing, and that she'll meet people from, I won't call out any country, but she'll meet people from different parts of the world, and they don't have the same attitude as as a person of color from the U.S. would have. They can say things that she's never heard, and they can do things that she's not prepared to accept. And I could see the concern and shock, disbelief, but I don't have to answer for anyone, especially if they're not from this country and they feel as though, they don't want to be identified with an African American from this country. They want to be who they are. I say more power to them. More power to them. I'm still finding out who I am. So, the labels that I put on myself, they keep falling away. The further back I go in history, these labels just keep falling away. My older sister used to always, you're not black, you're this, because she was older and she would research, and she found out mostly the so-called the Indian lineage in the family, but so much history was suppressed way back then. But all I knew is, from a little child, I kept my eyes on Martin Luther King. From a little child, he was 15, 20 years older than me. I couldn't understand all his big words, but one thing that I did understand is that nobody was going to come and save me. He was willing to do all that he could to make the world better, but I couldn't ride on his coattails. So even though I was in a little small town and everybody Not everybody, but the majority of the people, they were just, they weren't interested in looking to the left, to the right. They weren't interested in anything outside of the little country town. But I read Eldridge Cleaver, Stokely, Carmichael. Ooh, these are the people, the Black Panthers, the people in Oakland, the Black Muslims, the across the spectrum, the Ralph Bunch ambassador, and the athletes, entertainers. I read everything. These are the people that I embraced. But my sister was constantly saying, "You're not black." I would say, "I'm black and I'm proud. I can wear an afro just because you can't. Get off my back." Oh, how sweet. Arctic underscore Zephyr. Oh, hear us up. Welcome. Welcome. I appreciate all of you. I really do. I appreciate you. And you know what? I even admire your generations more than mine because I see how you all, just like my nephews and great nephews and nieces and great nieces from your generations, they won't tolerate no nonsense. I really love you all for that. You won't tolerate the nonsense that some of in my generation they would. I wouldn't. I wouldn't use any excuse, okay? This is a small town. Well, I would order books from Cleveland or wherever. If they weren't in my libraries, I, you know, I was in high school or less, but I'd work and get the money, order the books, open my mind, you know, so nobody could tell me, "Oh, you're this, you're not that." And like one man told me, I was surprised because, there were very few black men or men of color that would have those high positions, but he was a high ranking supervisor in one of the first jobs that I had, and probably one of the first black supervisors that I had. So I was in awe and proud and all that. And I feel comfortable saying I'm going to Africa. And, I was a very young person, but I guess he was shamed of his ethnicity. And he would say, "Come to my office," and he would tell me this, this, and this, and "Don't you ever say that again," and "You're not going to Africa," this. How would he know? My mind was, you just watch me, because you don't know what I'm capable of doing. you know, that just made me want to go even more. And I haven't been yet, but who's going to stop me? If I want to go, nobody's going to stop me. That's what they said when I lived in the Midwest. "Oh, you can't go to California. Why do you want to leave?" They didn't want me to leave those starvation, low wage jobs, no matter how much education I got. They were never going to pay me a decent cost of living. They couldn't pay me what I'm worth. Nobody had that kind of money. But at least pay me for the work that I do. They didn't want to do that. You know, they want to put the trap there so that you would be in poverty forever. You know? And now, today, I'm learning. There's a lady, I can't remember her YouTube title. But anyways, she went and got all those degrees, PhD and all that. Now she's telling her daughter and everybody else, have the right mindset, that if you don't find out before you get those degrees how to use those degrees so that you benefit the most, you're wasting your time. All you're doing is financing somebody else's life. You know, this is the conversation I had with my niece. She already finished her PhD long ago, and she knows me, her auntie, her other auntie, her mom, my younger sister. Anything she asks us, we're going to give her the honest truth to the best of our ability. You know, but she saw all the politics in the university where she taught. She stepped aside, started her own agency. She said it was the hardest thing in the world. It was so hard because, you know, her salary went down, but her cost of living, her expenses, her child care and all this, those expenses were still there. Excuse me if I've got fruit in my mouth. But she said, oh, it was so hard. It was just so hard. But she has that spirit, you know, it's from our ancestors, that in spirit, nobody's going to hold us back. No matter how many traps they set for her in the university, they couldn't hold her back. You know, she just, here's the position. I mean, see, that's the thing. They think, okay, you're female, you're a woman of color, you're a mom, you're a wife. You know, they're penciling in on you how they're going to trap you so that you can't leave. And then they have this double game. We don't want to give you tenure. You have to teach for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and they still don't want to give you tenure. My God, where does it end? You know, oh, don't get me on the soapbox. Don't get me on the soapbox. You know, it's just, I thought that my generation of women had ended all of those types of artificial barriers, but they're still doing this. Now they're saying, married women, prove to us that you're not committing voter fraud. Prove this is really your name. You see, it doesn't stop. It's not going to end. But at least, like I said, thank God for your generations, because you all are out there marching every time. The only reason why I didn't go out in downtown LA in March is because I still had to, today I had to ice my knee because I don't like to sit. I like to walk, and I like to stand up until I can't stand up anymore. And you know, after so many years, your knees and joints, they can't take that much. So I'm going to have uh, probably a specialist look at my knee. But all day long. I was on my feet and then I'd stop and ice my knee, but I just kept going, kept going, kept going. And so, but I'm, like I said, your generation, I'm so proud. I'm so grateful. Nobody's going to step on your neck. Nobody's going to tell you you can't go any further. This is as far as you can go in your career. Mm-mm. They won't get away with that. They won't. Oh, I mean, even with us, with my generation, I'll tell you, they thought they were getting away. They only got by. They only got by. They tried to step on our probations, no problem. Our promotions, they tried to step on our promotions in our career. I mean, we didn't just, you know, let it slide, but we knew how to wait until the chickens came home to them. We knew how to feed the chickens until the chickens went home to them. So, I think that's what I love about Los Angeles and the international community, because we're so much stronger together, even though some don't really realize it yet until you're in the trenches and you have to, if you're in America and you're in the trenches, you want an African American, you want a person of color, you want a woman, you want anybody that's been discriminated against or oppressed, you want them as an ally, because we know a million ways. We don't have to just, yell and scream and shout. We know a million ways to make it happen. Yeah, call us subversive or vindictive, anything. It doesn't hurt us. It won't hurt our feelings. And then thank goodness for you all, your generation took the boxing gloves off and said, enough. It stops here. It stopped. It stopped. But we had to, we had to have alliances and allies, and we had to have unions and strategy. I worked in some places where, because I was a female or a person of color, they felt it was their duty to harass me nonstop around the clock. And for some reason, I think I got a little too much chill and patience from my mother. But that's a dangerous person. I told you all how my mom had the patience of Job, and when her patience ran out, she would tell us, "Go out and get a switch off my rose bush and leave the thorns on and go upstairs and wait for me upstairs." And she would fillet, leave the thorns on the switch. When she finished, uh, I never disrespect her after that. She'd use a extension cord. She was professional with that extension cord. She, no, she, she loved too much and too deeply, and she had too much patience. But when she was done, she'd say, "Meet her upstairs." And she told us, "Take all your clothes off. I mean, take it all off, and you wait for me." See, she didn't play. She was like her. She was She had the opposite uh, temperament of her mother. Her mother had zero tolerance. Her mother was out the gate on our case. She any day of the week, she'd pick up the phone and start screaming in the phone. You know, why? She, in case we were thinking about doing something we had no business doing, she wanted to put us on notice that she would be in town, and if there were any bad reports, there would be no mercy. Yeah, so she was that type. She was the one. Don't fool around and find out, because that grandma, she didn't play. Like I said, she would blah, 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 blah. And when the police took her to jail, she'd call the prosecutor, the one that was supposed to send her away. She'd call the prosecutor, make him and his brother was my dad. So my uncle and my dad, she'd make them bail her out. Because she had enough in her life that, hey, no, nobody was going to wipe their feet on her. And now I see the new generations, they're the same way. Time out. No more. Mm-mm. Yeah, but like I said, my generation, some of us, we learned. I kept eyes on Dr. King, so I saw how valuable his work was. And as a young adult, going into the workplace, you're learning. You don't know enough when people are, SA abusing you. Um, they would come to your desk and they knew you were, a young person. You didn't know anything about the S3X word. You know what I'm saying? They knew you were young. You didn't know anything. These older guys would tell you, meet them outside of the office. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, this is a supervisor. They have something to discuss about my performance. It wasn't anything to do about my performance. Believe that. And, I didn't know what was going on. I'd have been on the phone with my uncle, and my uncle had his own law firm. I would have filed sexual harassment. But I didn't know anything about that. Nothing. But it always calling you away from your work to go out in the hallway so they could look you up from head to toe. And, they're turning beet red in the face. And you don't know what's going on. Is this person having a heart attack? What's going on? There was nothing in my mind to process it. I didn't know. But once I found out, that was it. The game was over. I didn't feel intimidated at all. Here's my resignation. I'm done. And of course, they know you're young. You need work experience. You need the job or a job. And they just assume that you would never leave. Here's your job. I don't care how well you pay me. you're not going to abuse me. And, like I said, I didn't know what was going on, but I know that the man that was harassing me, his supervisor's desk was next to mine, and his supervisor was always, I couldn't understand every word that was being said, but his supervisor was always just angry with him and was just telling him, you stop it, you stop that. He was just on his case. He was just, I didn't know why. I didn't know why, what was going on. I had no point of reference. I didn't know what the workplace was like. That might have been what would be the first real job. When you're in high school, you have part-time jobs, but after you graduate, you get a real job, a good paying job, and little do you know what's going on. But that's all it took, just for me to find out. Like I said, I could hear them argue. His supervisor was always arguing, you stop it, and I mean you stop it. I think his supervisor knew my uncle and was afraid of a lawsuit, because his supervisor would always ask me, how is your uncle? He's such a nice man. How is he? Is he okay? I said, yeah, he's fine. My uncle was so humble. My dad, humble man. He said, let other people do your bragging, don't brag. My dad won all his fights, professional boxer, won all his matches until he fought a man that was heavier than him. Was it Patterson? Ike, someone, a heavyweight fighter. My dad was a welterweight, middle heavy, around 150. He fought a man that was at least 20 or 30 pounds heavier, and he didn't beat him down. No, my dad might not have been the heavyweight type, but he was too much. He was too much. People would heavier than him would not fight him. They would run off at the mouth. And he said he'd never do that. He'd never threaten anybody. He just said, I'll see you outside. Catch me outside. They wouldn't be there. They'd say all that, oh, you're nothing. You can't fight. And I'll kick your so and so every which way. Okay, catch me outside. They'd ghost him. Nobody would fight him. So it's not always the one with the loudest mouth, the one with the, the biggest bulky shoulders and all that. My dad, he was always, never overweight. If we ever got overweight, he'd blow his stack. Oh no. He'd tell our mother, get her weight, catch it. No, he didn't. He did not like that. It really upset him. But, well, I know I gotta get up again early tomorrow. They're not gonna let me sleep. I know. Somebody will come and they want to do some repairs day we did a few repairs, just minor stuff, upgrades, renew the batteries in the smoke and CO alarms, and you know, they write out a bunch of work orders for your electrical outlets. They may last for decades, but it's always good to check them. So I want them to really inspect them. I cleaned off any dust, and they're open. I mean, they don't have any plates over them. I removed all the dust, but I want them to go inside and do an inspection, because California, our wildfire season is now all year round. I better not talk about it. It's too upsetting. I won't be able to get my blood pressure to come down if I talk about it. But so I have to redo everything from top to bottom, fireproof everything. It just, you never think that could change your life, but January 7th, wildfire. Our life will never be the same. Thank God some of us still have a roof over our head, but a lot of the people that we've known, we partied with through college, and we've known forever. A lot of those people, they left their homes with nothing but the clothes on their back. And these are people that they worked. Many of them were retired. Some of them they made some sacrifices to put children through medical school, put grandkids through medical school. They made sacrifices. So their homes meant a lot to them because that was their foundation. It was the bridge for at least 3 or more generations, and for generations before them and after them. So all that is gone. Just gone. Because why? Somebody was upset and threw a match, or somebody was careless and didn't want to shut the electricity off. Foolishness. People's livelihoods gone in minutes. Gone. A lot of the homes in Altadena that were lost, they were there. Some of them were close to 100. Some were older. So, for people of color and people from other countries to come here and to be able to buy homes, what they had to overcome, the redlining. When I came here from the Midwest and people started telling me that there was a time where Black people were not allowed to cross certain streets, certain boundaries, you had to stay within a certain perimeter. Don't go west of La Brea. Don't go north of Slauson. You had to stay in a certain perimeter. There's some history. And for them to finally pull their families together to buy a home, overcome impossible odds, finally get that home and have 3 generations or more living in the home. This is a tragic loss. These homes that were lost. And it's not this, it will never be the same, except now that we can't live in a bubble. We used to try to live carefree, even though no matter how hard, no matter how hard we work, we are still bled to death. We are milked to death. Always another tax, always another whatever, you know. And my older sister used to say, well, why are you all still there? Come on, why are you still there? Well, some of us are brave, maybe too brave, but some of us feel like we need to create a path for other people. So many people created a path for us. We feel like we need to make a change, make things better for other people. We just can't live for ourselves. Just crawl into a little nook with a book and just, forget about the world. No. Whatever the price is, whatever the sacrifice is, we have to make the world better. Leave it better than we found it for the people that come behind us. And thank God for you all. You all are really special people, angels from heaven, changing this world, not taking it no for an answer, not letting anybody just, tell you have to stay east of this street, you have to stay south of this street. Nobody can tell you that. You all will march and march and march. So yeah, I kind of pity the politicians that are sleeping, thinking they can get away with anything, because they're going to have to answer to your generation. And the generations that follow you, they're watching you all now. Just like I watched Dr. King and the people with him. There's generations, young people that are watching you all. And they're going to, in no time, they'll reach 18, 19, 20. And all this foolishness that's going on right now today, all these crazy things, whatever you all don't shut down, in a few years, these people will, I think, well, it's so late I can't remember the exact number of years, but soon it will be, I think they said in the 2030s. And this is 2025, so that's just 5 years away. But by the time the 2030s and 35s and 40s come, the demographics are going to shift dramatically. And this is why there's all this panic to rewrite the history books and to get get rid of African American authors and get rid of diversity, equity, inclusion, to abuse people so that they psychologically are so shattered, their soul is so shattered that they're walking ghosts. That's what they're trying to do to people now, to just shut them down inside. That's why I keep bringing you all Abraham, Joshua, HESCHEL, and people like Dr. Martin Luther King and all of them. You read them, you read HESCHEL, nobody will be able to shut you down. They'll run from you. Even without HESCHEL, your generation already, nobody's going to stop you. Nobody. Whatever. Your life is worth more than anybody could pay you. They don't have enough money to pay you what you're worth. They can only pay you for what you do. And believe me, unless you demand it, they're going to do everything they can not to pay you for what you've earned. That's why they don't want the unions. So, okay, I know they're going to knock on the door early and say they want to repair something. I think the dishwasher, the garbage disposal, that will be repaired early tomorrow or Thursday or Friday. And like I said, I got to get all these electrical outlets inspected and make sure they're ready. There's no chance of a spark. Well, the sparks are going to be there, but I don't want anything to get out of control, because this is why LA is burning. So once I start talking to you all, I want to tell you so much, because like I said, I already lived my life, and I want to make sure nobody tries to take advantage of you, or anybody tries to shortchange you in any way. See, that was the good part about my dad and my uncle, why I always defend them, even though I know they weren't perfect. But people would tell my uncle and my dad when they came home from this service, World War II, they came home from the service, fought honorably, they were discharged honorably, but because they were men of color, they would tell them, you can't do this, you can't do that. My uncle wanted to use his GI Bill to go to law school, and they would laugh in his face. You go to law school? N-word, get out of here. You can't. What you talking about? Get out of here. He became not only a lawyer, an attorney, a judge, and rose up through the municipal court, common pleas, all the way to a federal circuit court judge. They were telling him he couldn't even pass the bar exam. You see, don't let anybody tell you what you can't do. Nobody. How do they know? How do they know? All they can tell you is what they haven't done yet. Because they haven't done it, you know. People used to tell me, oh, you can't do that, you can't do this. My brother, he was a lot older than me, and he would tell me, don't you listen to them. Don't you listen to them. So, yeah. Of course, I know my dad, they would tell him the same thing because he was a little older than his brother. They would tell him, oh, you can't do this, because he really, I bet he fought not only welterweight, which is light heavyweight fighter, but I think he started out even lighter than 150 pounds because he started fighting so young in his teen years, early teens. So he wasn't heavy. He was never heavy. And so I'm sure they laughed and said, you too skinny and you can't do this. Foolishness. How do they know what you can do and you can't do? Don't listen to that. Don't. No. Only thing they know is what you haven't done yet. And all they need to do is step off, get out your way, and watch you do what you know you can do. So it may not be easy, but anything worth doing is worth doing right. And anything that um, is difficult. I think who was that? Mandela said it's impossible until somebody does it. Then it's no longer impossible. Just tell them when they say you can't do that. Just tell them you must not know about me. Tell them you must not know about me. And then you show them. You write your own history. Well, anyways, I am so sleepy. And so that means I get silly and I start repeating myself over and saying the same thing over and over. So thank you for joining the live and thank you for subscribing, sharing, liking. We're building a fun YouTube, and you know we're the can do. We're the can do crowd. So that's going to upset a lot of people. Eventually, somebody's going to jump on one of these lives and try to tell us what we cannot do. So that won't be anything new for me, and I'm sure it won't be for your generation. I'm so proud of your generation. I really am. I didn't ever think I'd live to see people like you all. Because most of the people in my generation or older, they either uh, were held back by, you know, something beyond their control. But thank goodness I didn't have enough brains. They had all the brains. I didn't have enough brains. Everything I got, I had to suffer, struggle, work twice, 3 times as hard as everybody else That's the only way I could survive. So, but when anybody from the union would say, well, we're going to march downtown LA, I was ready. I saw Dr. King do it. I thought it was the best thing in the world. I couldn't wait until the day came and somebody said, it's time for me to march. My sign was ready, and there was only a few people that were brave enough to do it. But I'm happy that I had the opportunity. I wasn't going to miss it. No way. And I haven't stopped since, except to ice my knees. I have to ice my knees and keep going. So, but they said that there's an app called Blue Sky, and that on people went on that app and they were able to find different protest march and different things that they could take action. There's all sorts of different things we could do besides marching. Until my knees get better, I'm doing other protest actions. The boycotts are available, so many other things. But okay, I really, really need to go so I can wake up early and get to work. Appreciate you guys so much. Oh, I'm so proud of you guys. Okay, take care. Keep your spirit of resistance intact, and just keep going forward. Wow, it's been another hour, almost 8 minutes. Okay, I think I'm going to get some warm tea and just chill. I'll probably read for another hour or two, then go to sleep. Thank you guys for joining the live. Alrighty, catch you on the next live. Okay. Don't let nobody turn you around. Turn you around. Keep on walking. Keep on walking. Walking on the freedom land.